Well, Numbers 15 is starting to get into how we need a heart that's given over to the Lord with dedication. That it's not enough for us to be superficially church members. This has got to go down into our hearts, that we need to be pouring out our hearts and our lives in the service of the Lord in fellowship with church, and that our sins, it matters whether we're heartbroken over our sins or not. All this comes out in Numbers 15, and we've just had these chapters really going right back to chapter 11, with all this business of grumbling and deceitful desires, bad attitudes about people in church, the whole problem with the spies, what they were looking at when they weren't looking at the Lord, and then the disaster of this futile mission. So in chapter 15, it just begins with the Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land, and of course that is now like going to be 40 years ahead of them. So it's an odd thing to talk about, saying, when you get into the land, make sure you make offerings like this. It seems odd to bring this up when they've just been told they're not going to be in the land for 40 years. But the Lord is doing something. He's saying to them, I want you to start thinking about what it will be like, what kind of a heart you're going to need to be in that promised land. It's the first part of the lesson of the wilderness years, preparing them to inherit what the Lord has for them. And it is the grain and drink offerings. It's deep things like the drink offering. Let's just quickly deal with that, because we know the Apostle Paul talks of himself as being poured out like a drink offering. He's just pouring out everything he's got in service to the Lord. And there's something about that in these drink offerings where it's poured out. And that sense of our lives being poured out in his service. It's a deep thing where if we think the only life we've got is what we get from food and drink and desires in this life, we only have a little bit of it and we're trying to hoard it up. We only have one life, so we're going to use it very, very carefully. We must hold on to life as tightly as we can. We dare not let it go because we've only got a bit. That's the attitude of the world, the flesh and the devil. But if you understand that you're connected into the fountain of life in the highest heaven, then the picture of the drink offering is just to pour out, because in truth there's an infinite amount of life. We don't have to hoard it up, we just let it go, give it out. As Jesus said, if you try to hold on to your life, you'll actually lose it. But if you let go and pour it out in his service, you find you gain life. Suddenly you find there's an infinite amount of life pouring down from Christ by the Spirit into us. So the picture of the drink of it, where it's poured out, is a symbol of a life that's poured out in service, rather than, as we've seen, the problem with that first generation of the ancient church, the hoarding life, the trying to keep it. They're definitely not trying to pour it out. Well, that's all we'll do in this one. Let's next time look at the grain offering.